The glass didn't clink. It shattered, and every head turned like a flock of birds, eyes wide and quiet, while the heart monitor kept time with the rain on the windows. Lionel Archer, the man whose last name sat on half the billboards off I-95, looked straight at me, then at his family, and said, steady and rough, "She's not the maid. She's my daughter." 3 seconds of silence. Then Serena's whisper cut through it like a razor. "Don't do this. My name is Mara Cole. Edgewater Heights, Connecticut, house on the cliff, with 36 rooms and a ballroom. Nobody danced in anymore. Jasmine that fights through the salt air every spring. I started there at 19 after my mother died on I-84, and the world went quiet. In the wrong way, learned how to move like a shadow that still found light. Which towels were for guests, and which were for show, how to polish silver until it held your face like a secret. I wore a tiny brass locket my mother left me, stars etched into it, and I never took it off, not when Serena called me girl in that way. Not when Lila tossed heels at me like I was a closet, not when Brent rolled his eyes and said I was family. In air quotes, not even when Lionel passed me in the hallway and gave me that look, the kind that recognizes you without permission. That morning, the storm came hard off the sound. Serena, in a silk robe, cinched like armor. "He wants his medication, and bring." Sparkling the bubbles help. And I said, "Yes, ma'am," because that's the language the house spoke. Lionel was smaller than he used to be, under the linen. Voice scaled down, but eyes clear as chrome. He took the pills. His fingers shook, then he held my wrist. "Stay," he said, and he never said stay. By noon, the study was a stage. Dr. Amir Patel, checking monitors with calm hands. Harper Klein, setting down color-tabbed folders. Serena hovering like a hawk, the kids drifting in on expensive cologne and drama. And I put down a tray of tea, like a person laying out normal in the middle of a storm. "Please stay," Lionel said again, and Serena laughed once short and mean. Whatever this theater is not now. Lionel looked past her. "I'm running out of later." He told it straight, not pretty, about a woman named Diana Cole, who read him poetry and didn't care who he was. About fear that dressed itself as strategy, about a baby he loved from the shadows, and a promise he broke the day he chose reputation over courage. "I brought her here after Diana died, because I thought closeness was the next best thing to honesty," he said, and the room tilted under my feet. Harper slid a lab packet across the desk. 3 independent DNA tests. Serena's smile went flat, delusion. She said, reaching for the papers, and Harper moved his hand like a goalie. Lionel looked at me. "Open your locket," and my thumb found the hinge. It's known since forever, inside a folded hospital bracelet, Archer D. Baby girl. His handwriting on a sympathy card. I saw once Serena's face blanching like the past had walked back into the room and pulled up a chair. Then he made it official, voice thin but firm. "Read it, Harper." The will transfer was plain as daylight, controlling interest in Archer Media. Through the foundation with me as chair homes. Accounts set aside education and wellness trusts for Brent. Lila Nico prenup. Provisions for Serena. Lines got carved right there in the air. "You can't give our lives away to the help." Brent snapped red with a kind of panic. "Money can't hide." "I will burn you down," Lila hissed. Without blinking, Nico stared at me like he was finally doing math. He'd avoided. Serena's smile turned surgical. "You played a long game, well done. But I'm better at long games." I kept my hands on the tray, because my body hadn't caught up to my life. "I didn't ask for this." I said, and Lionel squeezed my fingers. I know. That's why it's yours. That night he asked for me. Patel dialed the machines down so we could hear ourselves. Lionel's words came in pieces, but the guilt was whole. I thought if you were near, I could keep you safe. I should have been brave. I told him the truth. I never said out loud that being invisible can keep you alive and still kill something else. He told me about a safe not behind a painting inside the base of the grand piano, where Lila practiced scales. She hated code. It was my birthday, reversed letters and photos, and a note he wrote the day he learned I existed, where he promised to do better and didn't. Around 4 a.m., the rain softened. The monitor counted time, the way tides do, and he slipped away, and yeah, I held his hand until the sun. Because sometimes you stay, because you should have been allowed to stay all along. Morning felt like a stage after the actors quit. I opened the piano safe with hands that shook and still knew what to do. Photos of me at 5 at a science fair, in a thrifted dress at 12 with a crooked braid. At 19 on the first day, I walked through those doors with hope and fear. In equal parts, letters that sounded like the man who built an empire and the man who loved a daughter in secret. Mrs. Laurel, head of staff, second mother. In everything but title, put coffee in my hand and said, "Stand up, Aunt Taller, just on your feet." And I did. By afternoon, Serena came back in black. That didn't look like grief. Victor Shaw at her shoulder, with the courtroom calm of a man who builds knives for sport. We'll contest on competency, undue influence, fraud, abandonment, assets frozen. By 3 cameras already at the gate, a staffer's phone bill suddenly paid. Serena looked through me. Not at me. "I will make your life so expensive, you beg to give it back," Lila whispered to Victor. Brent smirked, and the only sound I wanted was Nico pulling up a chair, sitting down like a kid, stepping between a fight. "Did you know?" he asked, voice small and real, and I told him no. I guessed sometimes, but I didn't know, and he nodded. Like that solved something. "You're the one who taught me to tie a tie, found my inhaler at 2 a.m., came to that terrible play. If this takes my trust fund, fine. I'd rather owe you than pretend you weren't already family. You know what I mean?" We lawyered up. Harper brought in Rebecca Chen sneakers. Quiet fury, a windsheet that made Victor blink, and she laid it out. They'll attack everything. Turn presence into manipulation. Kindness into leverage. They'll buy lies if they have to. And I thought about handing the whole thing back and walking out the side door. Peace over power, but Rebecca pulled up head counts. Salaries, childcare stipends. We could expand instead of cut 18,000 paychecks attached to a legacy that didn't belong in a yard sale. And the math made the choice. "We fight," I said. "Not for marble, for Monday morning." The funeral at Chapel Ridge was polished. Sorrow old rivals crying into linen cameras, tucked like moths along the walls. Front row, a split screen. Serena with a face made for sympathy. Me with a simple dress and my locket. Mrs. Laurel's fingers tight in mine. After the hymn, Judge Elaine Porter found us. He was lucid and stubborn. She said I'd stake my bench on it, and Dr. Patel nodded. Sedation was clean, cognition intact, but Victor just smiled. Selective witnesses, interesting, not sufficient. Then Eddie Ramos shuffled in with a banker's box and a look like he was delivering a child. He told me to bring these if anyone tried to rewrite the truth letters from 2 decades. copies of Diana's replies. A flash drive, marked in Lionel's handwriting, a video recorded 6 months earlier, where he explained the whole thing before morphine, before rumor, and the room got very, very quiet. Chain of custody goes through my chambers, Judge Porter said, and Victor's confidence slid off his face like cheap glue in heat. We'll need to verify authenticity, he muttered, and for once nobody chased his sentence with applause. It wasn't a montage. After that, it was subpoenas and depositions, and staff deciding whether their rent was worth their memory. It was Serena filing motions at 4:59 on Fridays to bleed us dry. It was me under hot lights explaining how love can look like work, when you're not allowed to call it love. It was Brent in my kitchen with no swagger. I was cruel because it looked cool. I'm sorry, and me answering accepted doesn't erase, but it opens a door. It was Lila bringing a scholarship plan that would help girls. She wished she'd been. It was Nico shadowing Rebecca and learning how to take power apart and build it back, honest. In the end, Victor told Serena to settle because the letters and the video built a wall with no handholds. She got the Aspen place and a modest trust left for Europe. And yeah, that happened. We put the money to work the way Lionel said he wanted, but never made time to do doubled apprenticeships funded childcare, so single parents could keep their hours retrained. Print crews for digital instead of firing them in a headline. Brent went back to school and learned. Humility doesn't kill you. Lila built a non-profit for first-gen kids who need a map through money. Nico made a documentary about hidden families that made people say the quiet part out loud at dinner. And some nights, I tapped the bass of the piano for luck. Still wear the locket, the stars rubbed smooth. 5 years later, we were at my mother's grave with paper cups of coffee and laughter. We didn't apologize for, and a black sedan rolled up. Serena stepped out, smaller and older, hands raised like a person who finally knows which side of the fence she's on. I'm not here to fight, she said. I'm sick, Zurich says. Put my house in order. And I realized. I don't have one. I'm sorry. Not press release. Sorry. Real sorry. I was wrong, and I knew it, and I did it anyway, because power felt easier than love. Then she looked at the kids with skinned knees and bright futures. I would like to read to them sometimes. No secrets, no side deals, just something right before the clock runs out. The wind pushed leaves like it wanted to help us decide. Forgiveness isn't magic. It's maintenance, boundaries and consequence and mercy. When you've got the energy, so we said yes with rules. She read about a lost bear who followed the stars home, and she didn't look at my locket when she said stars. But I saw the recognition pass like a cloud that kept going. So tell me, this was Lionel, right to hide me for years. If he told the truth at the end, does timing buy? Forgiveness, does the person who did the work deserve the keys? When the person who lived the life wants to drive, and have you watched money turn folks into strangers, or bring out the best of what was already there? Drop your take in the comments, the real one. You'd tell your cousin on a porch at midnight, not the polite one. And if you've got a friend who's always been underestimated, share this with them. Maybe it helps them stand up not taller, just on their feet.